Since a very young age, Evelyn Bennett carried an unexplainable restlessness within her. She traded her quiet hometown in rural California for the steady bustle of Savannah, Georgia, hoping a fresh start would bring the peace she had always longed for. Evelyn accepted a position as a night receptionist at the old but somewhat forgotten Oak Ridge Hotel, a place known for its eccentric guests and local stories that drifted through the halls like faded whispers. The very building seemed to guard decades of secrets, from threadbare carpets and creaking wooden floors to the heavy silence of long, narrow corridors. Evelyn had hoped for a calm routine, imagining that quiet nights would give her time to read and reflect. Yet she soon learned the hotel's atmosphere was dense, charged with a presence veiled just beneath the surface. There was more than just tranquility hidden there, a thick, silent past and traces of invisible company waiting for recognition. Evelyn's routine involved overseeing the dimly lit lobby from behind the front desk, greeting the occasional guest who wandered the halls, and ensuring everything remained in order throughout the night. At Oak Ridge, the rooms were numbered, but only one truly captured the intrigue of the staff, room 23. Employees avoided it whenever possible, reserving the space for last-minute guests or unfamiliar travelers who didn't care about local legends. When questioned, other workers would simply shake their heads and say, "There's something different about 23." Despite her best efforts to ignore the rumors, Evelyn always felt a heaviness near the room. The air pressed colder against her skin, and sometimes the corridor itself seemed to grow chillier even on sultry southern nights. On the night when everything changed, Evelyn was settled behind the desk, attuned to the familiar creaks and groans of the aging building. As she watched the distant city lights flicker outside and the quiet clock tick by, her attention was shattered by a faint whisper, drifting from the mysterious room 23. The sound was too soft to be a conversation or the TV, but insistent enough to freeze her blood. Somehow, she thought she heard her own name in the hushed murmur, irresistible and chilling all at once. From that moment, Evelyn found herself engulfed by a web of memories, subtle clues and echoing silences that would alter not only her night, but also the way she viewed her past. A story was about to unfold, one that would show her certain secrets never wished to be revealed, yet somehow they pull us in like invisible magnets. Midnights at the Oak Ridge Hotel had always belonged to silence, broken only by the rumble of distant thunder or the occasional cry of a stray animal outside. On that night, as Evelyn sorted through a stack of old paperwork at the front desk, the clock glowed, 2:17 a.m. There was a weight in the air that made her glance over her shoulder for reasons even she couldn't explain, certain no one was behind her. With no guests milling about, she decided to brew a strong cup of coffee, hoping its warmth would shake off the encroaching drowsiness. Yet as soon as she poured her cup, an icy gust swept through the lobby, coming from nowhere, raising the hairs on her neck. Time seemed to drag. Each minute stretched endlessly, and the further the hands crept along the clock face, the deeper Evelyn's unease grew. Something unseen but certain felt as if it was waiting, lurking just below the surface, preparing to reveal itself. It was while leafing through an ancient, dust-laden guest register that Evelyn noticed something peculiar. Among the faded columns of forgotten names, room 23 appeared most often in reports of disturbances and bizarre occurrences, strange noises, unsettling dreams, and, in rare instances, accounts of voices whispering names not found anywhere on official records. Growing ever more curious, Evelyn wondered why so many odd incidents kept circling back to this particular room. One page was taped shut in the middle of the log, and behind it a hasty scrawl seemed to leap from the yellowed paper. "If you hear it, don't answer." She stifled a laugh, never imagining that these words soon enough would become a warning all too real. Around 3 o'clock, as she made her rounds down the corridor, Evelyn heard the whisper again. This time, it arrived alongside a sharp drop in temperature and a musty scent that crept under her skin. The hallway lights flickered, something she tried to rationalize as old wiring, but her body betrayed her. Her stomach tensed, her throat dried, and her legs felt rooted in place as fear prickled along her spine. The whisper grew firmer, repeating her first name over and over, louder in her mind than her own thoughts. Though she clung to logic, Evelyn understood in that moment that reason no longer applied. Looking through the peephole of room 23, she hoped to see nothing, but her tension spiked when a faint shadow glided behind the door, back and forth, almost graceful in spite of the dread it carried. Torn between fear and a strange, irresistible urge for answers, Evelyn hesitated before reaching for the doorknob to room 23. The whisper rose, more urgent now, like a plea begging to be heard. The hotel was utterly silent, and in that emptiness, her entire world shrank to this one corridor, and the question hammering in her mind: would she open the door or retreat? For a breathless moment, everything seemed to collapse inward, the walls too narrow, the air muffled, time itself slowing to a crawl. She inhaled deeply, gathering her resolve, but the suspense of the moment was almost unbearable. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the whisper stopped. It was in that tense pause that Evelyn finally turned the knob, unable to resist the pull of whatever secret waited on the other side. Pushing open the door to room 23, Evelyn was met by a thick blanket of darkness, disturbed only by the faintest blades of light reaching in from the hallway. The smell of mildew was far stronger within these walls, laced with the faint sweetness of something like old lavender, as if flowers had been forgotten in drawers for decades. She fumbled for the light switch, but none of the bulbs flickered to life, forcing her to rely on the trembling beam of her phone's flashlight. The narrow cone of light swept across peeling wallpaper and heavy wooden furniture that seemed left behind from another era entirely. A chill ran through her as the room gave the sense of being frozen in time, so untouched it felt like she was trespassing, not into just a physical space, but a secret carefully guarded for years. Everything about the room suggested it wasn't simply old. It was a stage set for memories that refused to vanish. Exploring tentatively, Evelyn found an old journal tucked beneath the bed, its pages yellowed and saturated with neglect. She turned the brittle sheets with care, the shiver of fear climbing her skin. The entries recounted sleepless nights, aching loneliness and longing, a chronicle penned by someone named Thomas, a guest who had frequented the hotel more than 20 years ago. Thomas described hearing whispers coming from the walls, always reciting different names and speaking of an emptiness that grew heavier after each stay. Between the lines, Evelyn discovered a newspaper clipping about an unsolved disappearance from the 1990s, tying room 23 to other chilling events at Oak Ridge. It became clear she was facing more than simple rumors. These were the rooted remnants of real stories left to linger in the shadows. As she read, another whisper slashed through the stillness, clearer and closer than before. This time, it wasn't just her name, but entire sentences, repeated in a pleading, fragile voice. "Help me, I am trapped here." The phone's light flickered, as if its energy were being drained by the very presence in that room, and an icy shudder ran down Evelyn's back. The space felt even smaller. The shadows seemed to crawl across the wall, and she heard the sound of heavy breathing just behind her shoulder. For a fleeting moment, she was certain she was no longer alone. A breath of wind set the curtains in motion, and beneath their flutter, a silhouette emerged near the wall, its features blurred yet heavy with an ancient sadness. For an instant, its gaze met Evelyn's, transmitting not only fear, but also a desperate hope. Trapped between panic and compassion, Evelyn quickly realized the entity before her was not seeking to frighten her. It was longing for freedom. Her voice shook, but she found the resolve to speak aloud, breaking the hotel's long ritual of silence. "How can I help you?" The temperature plummeted. The world turned absolutely silent, and for one suspended moment, everything held its breath. The whisper softened to a gentle sigh of relief, and Evelyn felt a strange heaviness lift from the air around her. The secret of room 23 was now painfully clear. It was not simply a local legend, but the scar of someone forgotten, yearning to be acknowledged. By reaching out with empathy, Evelyn was now unraveling not only the mysteries of the hotel, but also the ones she carried within herself. Leaving room 23, Evelyn felt an even deeper riddle settling over her shoulders. Thomas's journal pulsed in her thoughts. Unfinished sentences, scrawled dates, and hand-drawn sketches all seemed to point toward a secret not yet uncovered. She returned to the front desk, determined to piece together more of this strange puzzle. Rummaging through old hotel records, she cross-referenced guest names, check-in dates, and unusual incident reports. She noticed that many disappearances and accounts of odd phenomena happened at the same time each year, July, specifically during the week of the hotel's founding anniversary. Ordinary details, strangely interconnected, made Evelyn suspect that the heart of this mystery was tied to some event long buried in Oakridge's past. Flipping through a folder of faded photographs, Evelyn stumbled upon a black and white image of a celebration from some 50 years ago. In the center was a young woman with a sorrowful expression, standing beside a much younger Thomas. On the back, a simple dedication, "For Lily, my reason to keep going." For a moment, Evelyn felt a mysterious connection to this tale. Determined to learn more about Lily, she dug deeper into town records and uncovered that the disappearance haunting Oakridge belonged to her, and that ever since, Thomas had checked into the same room every single year, as if waiting in vain for her return. This story of love and loss, wrapped in enigma, helped Evelyn realize that Room 23 wasn't haunted by a vengeful ghost, but instead contained fragments of lives splintered by fate. With genuine respect for those who suffered in that room, Evelyn resolved to return once more to Room 23. This time she came prepared, a lit candle in one hand and a handwritten letter to Lily and Thomas, wishing them peace and recognition for all they had endured. As she stepped over the threshold, the air felt lighter, the whisper now a gentle breeze, almost like a caress, expressing gratitude for her empathy and courage. She placed the candle and letter on the nightstand and watched as the flame burned briefly, then faded slowly, leaving only tranquility in its wake. For the first time, the room's silence felt sacred instead of haunted, and the ineffable chill that had once lingered there seemed to dissolve, replaced by a deep sense of release. That same night, as dawn crept across the horizon, Evelyn sensed a transformation within herself. She was no longer just a hotel employee who had witnessed the inexplicable. She was now a keeper of memories and feelings that had called for recognition across generations. The experience made her question how many untold stories wander through the spaces we inhabit, yearning for someone to acknowledge them with courage and care. Room 23, once a site of dread, became her threshold between past and present, and while the mystery might never be fully solved, Evelyn finally found peace, ready to face whatever other secrets Oakridge had yet to reveal. After that singular night, Evelyn became something of a living legend within the echoing halls of Oakridge. The hotel's usual hush seemed changed, its silence tinged with a newfound calm. Her colleagues noticed that something subtle had shifted, as if the stories lingering there had finally found rest. Evelyn sensed respect and curiosity in the glances of others, and guests who once avoided the mysterious Room 23 now approached her, eager to hear about her experience, wanting to know if the mysteries remained. Though Evelyn kept some details to herself, she listened to each new story with care, welcoming the fears and impressions of those sensitive to the hotel's energies. For her, this became a silent mission to honor the memories threaded through every shadow and to restore dignity to secrets once left unspoken. The room that had bred so much fear was now seen in a gentler light. Evelyn noticed that particularly sensitive visitors reported feeling calm, whether passing by or even staying in Room 23. Many, moved by the hotel's tales of resilience, left small notes with words of hope, thankful for not being alone in their unease. The old complaint ledger gradually transformed into a collection of personal messages where guests shared dreams, longings, and sometimes candid wishes to reconcile with their own pasts. The space, once gripped by cold and solitude, grew inviting, a place for those who understand that no secret deserves to be buried forever. The experience caused Evelyn to reconsider the meaning of her work and the routines that once seemed mundane. Each shift became more than an obligation. It transformed into an opportunity for real human connection. Watching the sunrise through the lobby window, she realized that true mystery resides not only in the dead of night, but in the deep human yearning to be heard, understood, and remembered. This revelation deeply influenced her relationships with others, helping her recognize that within every silent glance or soft whisper, an entire lifetime of hidden emotions might be waiting for someone to listen. In the weeks that followed, Evelyn became known for her gentle ear. Many guests returned to Oakridge, not only for its mysteries, but to confide and to find comfort in the hotel's discreet warmth and in Evelyn's calm presence. For some, Room 23 was still wrapped in mystery. For others, others, it symbolized a fresh start. Evelyn understood that the cycle of enigmas would perhaps never truly end, and that brought her solace and inspiration. Amid whispers and silences, by lending a voice to what was once only fear, she helped transform haunted memories into bridges of hope, proving that even the darkest secrets can, through empathy, discover their own redemption. Amid the quiet streets of Savannah and the silent corridors of the Oak Ridge Hotel, Evelyn Bennett's journey stands as living proof that no secret is eternal. There are only stories waiting for understanding. Room 23, once shrouded in years of dread, became a symbol of courage, compassion, and transformation. Evelyn, who had long sought quiet, discovered that true peace was not in the absence of sound, but in the willingness to listen to what others fear to hear. By turning a room marked by fear into a doorway to hope, she showed that every one of us holds the power to give new meaning to the past. The days went on, and the legend of the special room traveled from one to another, passed down through generations of guests, staff, and townsfolk. The story Evelyn lived inspired others to return to the Oak Ridge, not just for the mysteries, but to find a place where every silence is valued and every whisper deserves a patient listener. Nights at the Oak Ridge were never the same. There was finally someone willing to turn fright into comfort and fear into remembrance. The cycle of the unknown continues, but thanks to the bravery of an ordinary person, that old door remains slightly open, reminding all that whenever someone needs to, they can cross the threshold and begin to rewrite their own story.